What's up, everybody? It's Josh here. I kind of am inspired to make this video from hearing Lobo talking about prepping the other day. And I don't hear too many videos anymore about prepping or preparing for any type of apocalypse or worldwide event or even a local event. The reason being is because I've generally unsubscribed from all the fear-based channels. Not saying that prepping is fear-based, that's not what I mean. I mean particular news that tends to be fear-based I tend to avoid, and a lot of the channels that talk about these things I've tended to just avoid, not because I don't believe it's important, but because in my mind I've already done the prepping I need. And Lobo really hit it on the head. I was watching the video and commenting as I was watching it, but he did cover my, he basically laid it out exactly how I feel, and education is indispensable in any type of event. And what I mean by an education is, I mean knowing your local plants, knowing your local herbs, knowing what you can harvest and eat, and what you can't educate yourself on. And this is something that of all the preppers that I've heard talking, they're talking about how much ammunition they want to have, and how good their bunkers are going to be, or how they're going to be underground, or whatever your particular path may be to whatever you think might happen. It's always going to be something more complicated. And it's like I was saying to Lobo, you can get your bug out bag as detailed as you want, but chances are when the shit hits the fan, you're not even going to be at home, and you're not even going to be near your bag. It's just one of those things, and maybe you will be, and it's good to have one. It's important. But above and beyond stuff, because about 4 years ago, time flies fast. I guess it was about 6 years ago that I started prepping, and I got everything I needed. I got my dehydrated food over the last few years. I've got a stack. I've got about a 4-month supply of food from my family and I, if anything were ever to happen. Food only goes so far. You can lose your food, you can not be near your food or not be able to take it with you, you might have to jump in the car and run. I have these big 5-gallon buckets of dehydrated meals that I bought, and I think I have 4 of them, plus a whole bunch of cans. A lot of stuff. But over the years of prepping, I came to realize that of all the stuff I had, most of it was really going to be useless unless I can use it. I guess what I'm saying is the ultimate prepping are things that you can use without having them. Things that cannot be taken away from you. And knowledge is one of those things. Knowing how to make gunpowder, knowing how to filter water, knowing how to make basic salads out of, say, dandelion leaves. People might be starving and starving in a field full of food and not know what to eat. But on top of this, you can only learn so much. So I urge people to buy books on herbs, books on making shelters and survival, books on organic chemistry, mixing basic compounds to make your own whatever you need, knowledge about fabrics, books about knots, lashings, ties, all these different things. And on top of it all, seeds. Understand plants. Understand how they work, and if you can store anything, seeds are very small and easy to store. I have quite a few emergency seeds in sealed Mylar bags that are good for many years, but like anything else, what are seeds going to do if you don't have anywhere to plant them? And I guess before I could go on and on about this, but I really wanted to just get to the idea that if you look at Detroit today and look at what's happened, what inspired me to make this video was beyond the prepper video I watched, was a show I watched this morning. It was called something across the world, basically the show was, each episode was two examples of cities that had been completely abandoned and the reason why. And the first one was Chernobyl. There was an island in Japan. There's a place in Namibia where they found diamonds on the surface, and they once the diamonds were gone, they just abandoned the city. And Detroit is a perfect example of that. And if you look back to the 50s and say, what's this world going to be, what's this city going to be like? They would never think that it was going to be like it is today. it is an absolute shithole. It's worse than they say. I mean, it's horrific, and it's not just there anymore. You know, there's another place. There's Gary, Indiana, which is completely abandoned. There's places like that lake in California, southeast of LA, and that place is, I can't remember what it's called at the moment, but they were diverting water from the Colorado for farming, and their diversion channel got blocked, and it ended up flooding across the plains and into this lowland and made this lake. And the lake is an artificial lake, obviously. The problem is it's at the lowest point and there's no way out for the water. And now over the years, when they finally got it, it took them 2 years to fix it. But now there's this lake, all these people started partying around it, set up all these towns, and then in the end, the salinity got so high, and then there was these huge storms that destroyed the town. Anyway, you look at these towns and you see how they were abandoned, how they were started on the basis of either gold mining or mining, copper or silver or tin. You've got other ones that are from, oil boom areas or major coal producing areas. And these collapsed as the desire and the need for certain things collapsed, or as the material ran out. There are a couple places that produced like saltpeter, for gunpowder, and after World War II it became, the need for those materials became less and less as they learned how to take nitrates out of the air, out of the nitrogen in the air. So what I'm saying here is that times change, and our needs as a society change. The things that we think that we need today, tomorrow are going to be obsolete. And as that happens, more and more towns are going to begin to collapse. And this is how I see this happening. People are waiting for a major apocalyptic event. I see it as a slow decay. It's going to be just like Rome, be just like so many of the other superpowers and high societies, if you will, that have prospered, flourished, been taken over by corruption and greed, and the poor have been oppressed like we are today, and we always have been, kept down, kept busy, kept confused, kept paying taxes, so the war machine can work. So, to finish this off, I wanted to say that that's where most of the money goes. A lot of people complain about the government and about taxes, about the president. Knowing that the president is something like number 86 on a list of like 130. There's a rating, of how, basically it's this way. The president can't just walk up to a military facility and just go in, because the military has more power than the president or his cabinet or the government themselves. In other words, our military is a separate entity. And right now, most of those major manufacturing companies like Detroit, the ones that make vehicles, that make tanks and cars and airplanes for the military, those are only surviving because they're forcing their products upon the people, upon the military. The military is saying, we don't need tanks, but they're finding a way to make them anyway, because they're afraid that and this is true, when the war machine collapses, if tomorrow we stop spending money on the military, our whole country would go into complete chaos, because so many military-based jobs, all the little technical aspects, making bombs, there's more money put into defense and offense than anything else. And so really use Detroit as that example. We stopped using cars. Now what would happen if we stopped using military might? And it would be absolutely devastating. So the war machine goes on, not because we need it, but because they need it to fill their pockets, to make sure that they get their funding for the next year by spending more money than they need this year. The old joke about how companies at the end of the year spend all this extra money, during December, so they can make sure that they get, the same amount next year for funding, and it's just chaos. So, to tie those together, I just wanted to say that as people are waiting for something to fall out of the sky, or a nuke to hit, or some radioactive gas to wipe everybody out, or a virus, and I think a virus is probably among the top things that might happen, but I think it's going to be a slow decay, and it's going to become unbearable for some people. And the reason why I find this so important is because I hear all these people talking about how the government needs to make more jobs, and it just doesn't work that way. The jobs are out there because of the demand that's created, and sometimes we keep these industries going merely to keep people happy. Not because we need these industries, but because we want to make sure that people keep their jobs. If you can keep a company open that's making no progress or help for society, merely so you can say be elected again by saying, look, I kept all these companies afloat. I mean, look at what happened with the bank bailouts and all this. I mean, we are being completely reamed, taken advantage of. And the reason why it's become so out of hand now is because our economy is gone. The U.S. economy is nothing more than a shadow. And many other countries are the same way. Most Americans don't want to admit that China is, beating us to the punch. They are becoming much more organized, much more military might going on, and they're not out there flaunting it. They just know what they have. And I think that that's kind of what a lot of us have lost, is that ability to just say, we're self-sufficient, we're doing okay. I'm not saying by any means China does it right. What I'm saying is that they're going to make the same mistakes we made. Every superpower loses in the end because of greed, because they want to be dominant. And so for those of us who are just waiting for something to happen, being aware, being prepared, and most of all, being mentally prepared to know that if you were thrown out on the street tomorrow with nothing but your, shoes and the clothes on your back, how would you fare? Would you be able to handle yourself? Do you know how to talk to people? Do you know how to get along in a group? And that's another thing. A lot of these people want to be very self-sufficient, and they're afraid that after a disaster, everyone's going to be out to get each other. And, for a time, and in certain situations, that's probably going to be true. But people have a natural desire to bond together and help one another, if they can trust one another. So in order to trust people, you have to know people. So getting to know how to talk to people is indispensable. Being able to fit in any group. I mean, I can move between many different groups of people and be able to associate, hang out with the hippies, hang out with the punks, hang out with the office people, whatever, and be able to conduct myself in a way that helps. And I think that that's a very useful thing. But yeah, other than that, just being mentally prepared for anything. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't live in a fear-based life. I don't let myself worry about what could happen tomorrow. When my life wasn't going so great, and before I had kids, I used to just welcome an apocalypse. Like, bring it on, humans are a scourge. We need to be starting over. We've gone too far. And then I went through a phase where I said, no, there's hope. I want to be able to think there's hope and we can move out of this. But I'm actually reside somewhere in the middle, where I know that people are going to have to suffer. The world is going to have to suffer before it gets better. And I don't know how that's going to come or from what direction. But I want to be ready for it, whatever direction it comes from. And I guess that's really all I wanted to say, is just be prepared mentally. Don't worry about how much food you have. Don't worry about, if you live in an area that has very little water, yeah, sure, you want to have a lot of water, but you have to think rationally, and don't feel secure just because you have some food stocked up. Because when the food runs out, you're going to have to know how to find some more. So, anyway, hope you're all having a great day. I'm kind of windy here. It's looking kind of nice here. Oh, yeah. Hey, little peas. Take care, y'all.